let's just start off with that because that's pretty popular for what we're talking about. So
That's that's like funny to hear. Can you guys hear me okay? I have my AirPods in.
yeah, there you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. I don't even think that I have like a big account on Substack. Like maybe that's just because I like, compare myself to people who have like thousands, but like I mean, I have 700 something, and I've been on it probably like 6 months ish, maybe not even. I don't remember when I started like religiously coming to Substack every day. But I had like 300 newsletter subscribers and I was using Beehive. So I was like, I'm not going to use Beehive and Substack. I will just use Substack for my newsletter. So I moved people over, but I actually found when I moved people over, my open rates went down. I don't think that every single one of those people actually came with me over to Substack from Beehive. So that probably gave me a bit of a jump. Like instead of starting from just zero, I started from like a couple hundred. So that would probably have something to do with it. But I honestly don't see myself as somebody that has like, grown really fast on Substacks. I feel like there's some people on there that just like blow my following out of the water.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a common thing too. Like even Talon, he had like a pretty big email list when he came over, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Thousands, probably 5,000, maybe something like that.
this is why the comparison game is not a good game to play.
I also feel like how many people are like now that I'm more less green as a creator, I'm wondering like how many people have like massive accounts and don't make any money or have small accounts and make money. So it's almost like I think the accounts are only or a following is only as good as like the person's able to make uh use of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say that. I think there's still kind of a misconception on all social platforms that like huge followings equate to huge businesses or huge success. And I've just found in either case, it can be very far from true. Like there's people who are some of the wealthiest people I know, and they have quite small followings. And then there's people that just know how to grow big accounts, but don't necessarily know how to monetize it. So that's why I think like when you're doing any kind of like social media content offer, it's worth having that conversation with the client of like what they think they want out of social media. Cause a lot of times people have this perception that like, oh, I just need to like post more and like get more followers. And somewhere in their mind, they're telling themselves that if I have more content out there or more followers, my business will start doing better. So I think that's a really important conversation to have with content clients at the beginning is like, what do they think they want out of social media? But then you have to dig a little bit deeper and figure out, is that what they actually want? Or is there some kind of like misconception here on their part that they think that more followers will equate to more business? And if they actually want more business and deep down don't really care that much about followers, sometimes it takes like us as the creators asking them those questions to get clear on that for them.
Yeah. Did you
Definitely.
before we got on the call, Mike, you mentioned something about like getting a meeting from LinkedIn or something like that. What was that about?
Yeah, so what I did just to be like fully certain that the LinkedIn algorithm has really changed to the degree that I thought that I think it has. I took a post from like last year, the exact post that got me like 40 inbound leads last year, in January,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, let's just post this again, like identically, and see what it does. And like, I was almost a little bit surprised because like LinkedIn from a lead generation standpoint, from content has just like been so night and day, like such a like a crazy difference since like earlier in 2025. But so I almost didn't expect to maybe like to get any leads, but as it turned out, I think I had like three sales calls this week, and some good ones. Especially one of them was like a seriously qualified uh lead, right? So um it's good to see that you can still generate calls off of LinkedIn. And of course you can, right? But it's just way less effective. And yeah, yeah.
I had one that was interesting. So like on LinkedIn, how you have like the who views your profile. I've been going through that and not like pitching, just saying, "Hey, what's going on? Nice to meet you." I had sent one and I posted about it the other day on Substack about like, "Hey, I just asked the guy like, I noticed that you're in logistics. Nice to meet you." Da, da, da. And he straight up like just said, "Hey, I'm raising money. Let's talk next month or something like that." It's really weird because I think that like a lot of the times like a lot of those ones that are coming to your profile are already warmed up. It's just a matter, I think, of like, how do I like not be a creep and get them to like be interested? And I've had it happen literally like 2 or 3 times where there was no pitch and they like literally just like a popcorn kernel like popped. Like it's super bizarre because like I don't know. So I'm trying to do that too, just like trying to get a little social, like me, just have conversations, not be salesy. And it just seems to be working. So maybe that's what the following's for, right? To like get people to like they already trust you, they already know you. It's just a matter of like maybe they don't know how to like introduce themselves and they're just curious. So I don't know. Do you guys go through that list often, or are you guys thinking? I'm starting to make more time for that.
That's a really important list, the people who view your profile, because there's a level of intent there, right? Like maybe they saw one of your posts, maybe they were doing some sort of a search, like, and even within that, there's different levels of intent. But like regardless, like there's a level of intent if they viewed your profile, just like, period. uh
Yeah,
yeah, so I definitely do check it, right? And you're just looking for the people who actually fit your ICP when you're looking through.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I was just
yeah.
gonna say, I agree. I think people that look at your profile are like obviously uber curious about you, but it's funny how you said like, oh, it's me just being friendly and like having human conversations with people fucking works. Who knew? It's because I feel like when people get into like prospecting mode where they're like, I'm trying to grow my business, I'm trying to get clients, they just like get weird
Keep
and be
talking, you
like,
guys. I'm gonna tell these people really quick that we're keep on talking. Sorry.
yeah, it's all good. I feel like people just get weird with it and they like stop being themselves and they stop like just being friendly. And I think, Jeremy, I don't know if you can still hear us, but you said something there that I was like, oh, that's a good way to put it. Is that the best way, I think, to get people interested in what you're doing is to genuinely be interested in what they're doing. Because, like, if you hit somebody with a message and you're like kind of pitching them, you're ultimately saying, like, I want you to be interested in what I'm doing, but I haven't shown any care or interest in what you're doing. So you just have to reciprocate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I mean, a lot of those old school, like, self-help books are all about, like, being interested in other people instead of being interesting, and I think that that's really true. Like, when you start talking about yourself, no one really cares, but I think the reason they're probably coming onto their profile is because 'cause they're like, "Oh, these people have results, and maybe they could help me get results," or whatever. But, yeah, it's that one's super, super interesting. You'd mentioned too, Kelsey, before the call, something about price objections and the people asking for, like, discounts and things like that. How did that come like, what's the context of that, and, like, how did that come into play?
Is there a
Yeah.
story?
Yeah. This is how my Friday morning started, and it's it's funny that now, like, this is kinda how I know that I like Substack because when things happen, I'm like and
Mm.
I'm trying to process it, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna go write a Substack post about it." Because sometimes just, like, the act of writing it makes me get clear on, like, what am I feeling? What do I wanna say? Um, but yeah, I basically had somebody that I had a follow-up call planned with today that was gonna join, this coaching program that I'm, like, a coach in,
Mhm.
and it seemed like it was aligned with what he wanted, seemed like it was a good fit, he seemed like he was a good fit, and then I got a message from him this morning that kinda surprised me, and he was basically just saying, 'cause I sent him some videos of, like, here's what the inside of the program looks like, I know when I joined, I'm a very visual learner, I like to, like, see things, so I sent him a couple of videos just kinda walking him through, like, this is what it looks like, this is the support group, this is what you can expect, and he basically he didn't he basically wanted the program at a discount, and his way of asking for that was to kinda diss the program and point out all the things that he thought were wrong with it as a way to
Oh my.
justify, like, asking for a smaller price, and I've seen this happen before with other people I know that are service providers, where you'll get those clients that their way of getting you to work with them is to basically say, like, "Well, it's not that good for this reason, but I'll still do it, I'll just do it for less." And if I wasn't on my phone right now, I would like read you guys my response to him because I basically just kind of called him out and I was like, I think if I can remember, I was like, hey, thanks for letting me know where you're at. Honestly, I'm really surprised by your response, and I'm also surprised that you would call this program, like he said, it looked like it was like cheap training material, fly by night, get rich quick. And I was like, I'm surprised that you would call this that and then still want to join. Like
Yeah.
that seems kind of dumb to me. But also, his final message to me was, I'm willing to join for this price, which is like a quarter of what the investment is for the program. And, call me when you can meet my needs or something like that. And then his final message was, I will be the best, most convicted case study you guys ever have. And
Ah,
I was like, oh,
yeah, right,
there's so
bro.
many things. Yeah. So
Let me tell you why you're not going to be the best case study.
yeah.
You just use the sentence, it seems like it's get rich quick. So what that tells me about you is that you seem to think it's a scam, and you're not going to nobody has success in a mentorship program if they're not convinced that making money online or that the model that business model is legitimate. So if you think it's get rich quick, bro, this is not the program for you. You're not going to be the best case study. In fact, you're probably going to be the worst.
100%. That's exactly what I said. I was like, I could just, I could try to meet his needs and make it work for him and get him in, but I was like, fuck it. I don't want to move you forward. I was like, it's surprising to me that you would say all these negative things about a program, but then still want to join it. And also, if that's kind of the energy that you're coming into this with, like, don't worry about negotiating, man, because like we don't want you in the program. Like, we're not in the business of convincing people that this is valuable. If you don't see that, then you should go another direction. Because if that's the impression that you're coming into this with, that this is low value and you should devalue it, you almost certainly would not be a high convicting case study of the program. So I hope you find what you're looking for.
There
Peace.
there was a lot going on there. It kinda reminded me of, like, when you sell, like, a guitar or something on Craigslist and someone comes to your house and they're, like, checking out every string,
Oh yeah.
like, "Oh, how often have you used this thing for, like, 10 years? It's kinda nice, but it's kinda jacked up. Your price is way too high." It's just like, that they're going in there to, like, devalue you to, like, bring the price down.
Yeah.
But what his flaw was is like, all right, like not only is he devaluing the program, but like what you both said, that he's also like saying, I'm gonna be your best case study. It's like, no, you're not. Like so it's some people are like that, like they'll be like, oh, some influencers be like, let me stay at your house for free and I'll post it on my Instagram or whatever. And things like that. And it's just like that should never really work. So I think it's good though that you stood your ground and you kind of just said to like bugger off or whatever. Is that pretty much what you told him in the message?
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to move somebody forward into this program who clearly doesn't value or respect it right from the get go. And like, I'm not here to convince you by any means. If you don't see the value in it, you shouldn't join. But like, program's been running for 9 years. They're like the longest
Yeah.
running coaching program, very high ratings and like BBB, Trustpilot, all that shit. So like the program works, but
Yeah.
the best program in the world will not work for somebody who walks into it already convinced that it won't work for them. A hundred
Yeah.
percent, I believe that 100% of the time. If you walk into an opportunity already telling yourself this is not going to work for me, then it will not work for you. So if you're under that impression, you should move on. And I'm not going to meet your disrespectful lowball offer. You should go find something for that price point then. Good luck.
No, like that, even just that phrase though, get rich quick, that actually strikes me as like that's a red flag to I don't know what this program is in this, right? I mean, sounds great. It's been around for 9 years and all this. Wow. But like that actually strikes me as a red flag to the actual like program owner. It's like you really don't want people who are using that kind of language. Get rich quick. It seems like I don't know, is this legitimate or whatever? And trying to use that as the reason to get a lower price. And then also saying I'm gonna be your best case study. This is a very confused individual.
Yeah, it's a confused individual who literally just wants to spend as little as possible. but get out of it as most as possible. Like he basically wanted to get a one-on-one mentor, all the training, all the coaching, everything for like less than a quarter of what the program would value that at, especially if you have a one-on-one coach. Like,
Mm.
yeah. So
So how do you
that
guys
was
know what to discount? I guess like who will you discount for, or do you discount at all, or is discounting just not something that you do, or do you try to give other perks or other bonuses or in lieu of discounting? Because some people will always ask, and I don't think there's anything wrong with asking, but it's another thing to ask and actually give it.
I'll say something first on this. I have done discounts in the past, right? I think something that is important, like I'm speaking more about like done for you services, not so like so much coaching and mentorship, which has never really been my main thing, right? Um, but like, yeah, there's been times where I've offered a discount, right? I've had some prospect ask me, "Is there anything you can do on the price?" You know, and I maybe come down by like $500 or something like this. But something that's pretty key is that if you do make a discount there on the fly, don't I would say don't just make that discount and then just like let it sit and just leave it at that. I would use it as like, yeah, if I was to knock like $500 off right now, would that would you be ready to move forward? Make it like kind of like an ultimatum. Where it's, if I do this right now, are you ready to move forward? Because it sucks if you're gonna knock money off and then they're gonna be like, okay, great. Well, this was great getting on with you. I really respect your time. Da 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 da. Yeah, if you can send me over those writing samples, etc., that'd be great. And then you're gonna have somebody where maybe they're not even going to move forward, and you already offered them this discount rate that you're going to be emailing them about, like, yeah,
Yeah,
we can do this discounted rate, and they still might not even sign, right? So like use it as a tool to at least close that deal faster. um
make it time bound,
but
maybe like a date. Like, hey, this is good for like a week or something, something along or a
yeah,
couple days.
yeah, yeah, but I just like that phrase of like, if we were to do $500 less, if I was to do like, I don't know what the amount might be, 2,500 for you right now, would you be ready to move forward? At least use it as a tool where it's like, okay, if you respect my time and you're ready to get started right now, tell you what, I will go down on the price, but like let's move forward right now, because also time is money in a way
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And I have had clients where when I've done it that way, they have not been nightmare clients. Like they've been pretty good. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on if it's your own offer versus like in this particular scenario, I'm somebody who can like move people forward into this program, but it's not my program. So it's
right.
somebody else's program, somebody else's like price point.
Model.
So I know with him like what is like the absolute minimum that they could possibly offer this for before they're actually losing money, because especially with something like a one-on-one mentorship, if they're pairing you with a mentor in the program, they have to pay that mentor. So there's only a certain amount that they could even go down to before they're like legitimately losing money by selling somebody at that price. So it's good to know like what that number is for you in your own process too. Like after the hours that you put in, the people you have to hire, the softwares you use, like know what that bottom line number is before you're actually losing money with discounts. But I also think discounts are kind of like a case by case. Like Mike said, you might have some people that ask for a discount just because it literally like is out of their price range. They don't have the money. And it's not that they don't want it, it's that money is literally the biggest constraint. And some of those people could end up being great clients. Like I've seen people move into that program and they couldn't even afford, $300 to get started, but they scrounge it together and they're so thankful that they offered that payment plan. And then they get in and they become like a huge success story of the program. And it's like, holy shit, like budget was the only thing stopping this person, but they still were a success. But I think you can kind of sense that in somebody's energy, because somebody who's like, yeah, I really see the value in it. I really want to do this. Like, you're the one I want to learn from. Is there anything you can do on the price? Cause like I'm like paycheck to paycheck right now. That is a very different energy than this guy this morning who's like, here's all the things that are wrong with it, but I'll still do it if you can come down to 1/6 of the price. It's like, fuck no, man. You're not somebody that making an exception for is going to be a good
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, that's very true. It's more of a case by case type of thing. And exactly like you said, honestly, actually, if they're critiquing your service like that, like in any sort of like that, like list format that he had, or just critiquing it in general versus asking a question for clarification, because there's a big difference. Like some prospect, asking about, say, something like within a ghostwriting service, I'll use that as the example, asking about like, okay, now these comments or like these connection requests, how do you send those? Do you send those like manually? Do I need to have like Sales Navigator? Da 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 da. Asking like something like that for clarification versus being like, yeah, I don't know. Like on the flip side, somebody critiquing a ghostwriting service is like, you guys probably just write it all with like AI in this too. So like, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do this price, but yeah, if you could do it for like maybe $1,500 lower, I'd be ready to move forward.
Yeah.
This is not that's not a good person to do any sort of discount for, because they just told you they see a fundamental flaw in the service. They're gonna be they're gonna be a nightmare client for sure. Yep.
I have a
Yeah.
client
Yeah.
right now that I'm onboarding for podcasting, and I've been working with him for a couple months now, and he shows up to like usually I can get a show launched probably within a couple weeks if it's like the right person and they're motivated and they're like ready to go. But this person's like dragging their feet. Like every time on a call, he'll show up and be like, "Oh, he'll either like cancel the call or push it like or like not show up prepared or ready." And you could really tell like who's gonna make it and who's gonna not make it just because like a lot of the times it's like how they show up and like how bad they want it. And some people just like want to act like they want something but don't want to do the work. And those are the type of people that make it really hard. And it sounds like some of these people too that want the discounts, they're positioning it in such a way that they're dinging the product to make it less valuable. And that's never a good thing. Like I never want someone to devalue the product because then all of a sudden it becomes like more transactional and commoditized.
Yeah, I think it comes down to them actually valuing the work. And like Jeremy, you and I have spoken about this before around content offers is like, who you're trying to attract with your offer. And ultimately, you're trying to attract people that see the value in content. They see the value in somebody else handling, making high quality content for them. So if somebody is taking that approach where they're asking for discounts because they're devaluing it, because they're ultimately saying like what you're offering is not worth the value you're asking for, therefore I'm saying that I will pay you less, they're devaluing it from the very start. So those probably are going to be the clients that then don't respect meeting times with you. They eventually will probably stop wanting to pay you because if they're devaluing it from the start, they're likely going to keep devaluing it. And it's also just like a respect thing. Like I see it as, if I don't know how to explain it other than like almost like hierarchy. Like if somebody's saying like, I think your program is down here and I'm up here. So as opposed to somebody being like, I see your program as up here and I'm reaching for it, but I just don't have the money. Like if somebody's saying this offer is not good enough for me, therefore you should offer it to me for less. Well, I mean, maybe you should just go find a content offer that you actually value then, because this probably isn't going to be a great working relationship if you already don't see the value in it. Like I'm not here to convince people to value me, you know?
Yeah, especially like say you just use the example of like content, for example. If somebody doesn't understand the value of content, which is like this is applicable to like basically what all of us offer. Um, that's a really tough sell. That's like a massive belief shifting thing, and like and you're not gonna be able to convince that person on a 45-minute sales call as to why they should be doing content. Like that's the kind of like objection. It's not even really an objection. That's the kind of one that's too much of a red flag. There's other things that are more of just a small objection, but you don't want to have to like sell people on why they should be doing content. That's yeah. They got too far to go before they'd be a good client.
Yeah, 100%. What about green flags and like what other red flags do you look for? Is because I see a lot of people chasing clients maybe that are not necessarily like a good fit for them, but they might be chasing them. Obviously, if you're newer, you need money and you can take on whatever you can in the beginning. But as you get more experience and more laps under your belt, then it seems like sometimes we could be chasing clients that might necessarily be the greatest fit. So like how do you guys know like what is a good fit, I suppose, for like the clients that you want to close? Like, content being one of them, it sounds like just being aware of like I don't want to convince someone to like, oh, like you should post content. Like you already have to be convinced and convicted in that. Cause otherwise, if you go look at like Eugene Schwartz thing, I think he talks about like those market awareness things. I don't want to deal with people that don't understand it yet. That's just too much work. So that's where I'm at there. But another thing maybe is like, did they show up to the meeting? Are they late? Are they already like making excuses or I don't know, like just shit like that. Is there anything that you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever chased after someone and it just backfired on you at all in the past?
I feel like we probably all go through that in the beginning because at some point when you're brand new and you're just trying to like get your first clients and prove yourself, it's really hard to not have that like newbie desperate energy. Like we
Yeah.
all go through that, but like I really do believe it's correct. You know, people say that selling is a transfer of energy because people pick up on that and people pick up when you're really, really trying to get them as opposed to having a laid back energy of like, hey, this is what I do. This is what I see you do. I see some Mike loves this word. I see some synergy here between like what we both do and this is why I want to work with you, but like if you're not into that, all good. Like it's just having that kind of like friendly energy as opposed to like a desperate like I'm chasing you because I really need your business energy.
Yeah.
Um but for me, I can't remember, I was definitely talking to one of you about this that like I've kind of realized in the last year probably that the biggest thing that I look for in clients and like really just any kind of relationship is people who do what they say they're going to do. So if somebody says, yes, I can get on a 2 hour interview once a month, and then they show up for that interview, that's like really all I need from a client is just like you do what you say you're going to do. And if you don't honestly believe you're going to do something, you don't commit to it and you just own that. So if somebody's like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm super busy, and I probably would have a hard time showing up for an interview because I'm all over the place. Then like I respect that way more than somebody who says they're gonna do it but then continually cancels. So
Mm.
you can usually get a sense for that pretty quickly in a relationship with somebody because like if they're canceling your first meetings or like trying to reschedule last minute, like I put pretty hard lines down with any clients I work with, whether it's like content or coaching or whatever, it's like if you cancel within 5 minutes of the meeting, I will not see it until we get to the meeting, and therefore you will forfeit that meeting if it's like a coaching session or something. Because the biggest thing that I ask for is just that you do what you say you're going to do. Um, that's more so something that you realize like once you actually start working with somebody. Before
Mm.
you start working with them, I would just say like people that are really, really skeptical because I think that skepticism kind of shows you 2 red flags almost. Number 1, it shows that, like, for example, with that coaching program, sometimes people will talk to me and they'll be like, "Well, why should I, how do I know this isn't a scam? Or how do I know that this one's better than that one out there?" I'm like, "Well, respectfully, if you're asking me that question, that tells me that you haven't taken any time to look into this program. So you came to this call expecting me to, like, convince you that it's legit." Like, you're taking time out of your day today to get on a call to join a coaching program that you didn't take 10 minutes to research? Like, I'm not here to convince you that the program's legit, man. You you gotta do that yourself. Like, I'm a stranger on this call to you. So it tells me that they're not taking any time to actually, like, look into what they say they want. But it also tells me, like, there's some people that are kind of under the impression that, like, content doesn't work or online business doesn't work. It's like, well, I feel like there's maybe a lack of accountability here because if you're under the impression that, this isn't gonna work, I mean, it just makes me wonder, like, okay, so that tells me you probably, like, tried other things in the past and you're blaming it not working on the other person or the other thing. Like, I don't know if I'm even making sense anymore. Do you guys get where I'm going with this?
Limiting beliefs is something that comes to mind for me there. Like, is that they might have some serious limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
right? Which again, like this is kind of a theme. You have to also be able to spot the difference between limiting beliefs, which are like there's ones where the guy's trying to use it as posturing to get a discount. Like he's trying to say, like, I don't know, it seems like get rich quick, but yeah, at the same time, I'm going to be your best case study. Uh, so there's like that, but it's like, dude, that's a massive red flag. The guy's got too much going on. That's a problematic client waiting to happen. But then there could be like somebody, because I was thinking about this earlier about when I joined Growth Ghost, how even for me, I was coming from restaurant marketing. So and even though I'd like, so I probably had like different limiting beliefs than say somebody who's coming from like the 9 to 5 or something like that, right? So I already knew that you could make money online. I knew you could have success with a business and all this. But I had kind of like maybe some limiting beliefs on just how good ghostwriting was in terms of like what kind of money can you really make, like what kind of money can you really charge and all this. So I had questions like that for Dakota. And because I was going to be making that pivot and because it was like not some cheap program, right? Had to come up with like a lot of money in this. I was on the fence for quite a bit of time. I actually joined the program late. I joined the program 1 week after it had started. And then it's just as soon as I did actually join, I just hit the pavement, right? Um and yeah, like it ended up being a massive success, right? So like there is a big difference in limiting beliefs. It's like, is this person, and this is why the ability to read people is so important because it's like, is this limiting belief that this person's saying, is this real? Like they're actually just kind of like worried or apprehensive or doubtful because like, man, is ghostwriting like really this good or whatever? Like you can tell when there's genuine curiosity there, genuine like apprehensiveness versus just like, like your other guy that you're talking about there, uh, using it as posturing. So, but it's funny. It's so easy to spot red flags. And you asked about green flags, Jeremy. It's like, yeah, it's like it's easier to spot the red flags. So the green flags are just the opposite of that, right? So for like a ghostwriting client, it's like a red flag is somebody who wants to nitpick through the content at like to a degree it's like this you don't really even I don't think you want a ghostwriter. Like the ghostwriters are good for people who are too busy to do it themselves. You actually seem to have a lot of time on your hands. Um so, like, the green flag version of that is somebody who's very hands off and is hiring on a ghostwriter for the right reasons because they don't have time to do it themselves and they want to work more on their business, right? So, for green flags, just think of the opposite of all of these, right? Somebody who shows up late, somebody who shows up on time,
Yeah.
right? Somebody who has like uses objections as posturing versus somebody who just wants clarification, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the online business thing is also weird too, because I feel like even the ghostwriting business, like you could be a really cheap ghostwriter or a really high end ghostwriter. I think like that market is like in any business, right? And then it's like Dakota, obviously, that energy transfer where he had been there, closed big enough deals where he's like, yeah, this is possible, it could be done. And he had all the right answers for you that you actually were able to believe in what he was to accomplish it. So I guess to that point, it was probably a bit of an energy transfer for someone that's done it. And now that you've done it and killed it, you could also do that for other people that are like new with ghostwriting in this type of world as well. So I think that that part of it is just maybe through experience. But that's really interesting that you said about the ghostwriting thing about the people that are nitpicking every word. It really that person doesn't have like they'd have way too much time on their hands, and they're just wanting to probably like, just show, like, their expertise or trying to, like, one up you, and those are also kind of a pain that actually scare I don't do ghostwriting, that's not my business, but, like, the ghostwriting, that would scare me the most out of the ghostwriting thing is just ending up with someone that I'd wanna, like, throw my computer out the window because 'cause they're being so annoying.
Yeah. I think that kind of ties into what I wrote in that post this morning when I was like trying to sort through it in my mind. I was like, those people don't want to work with you. They want you to work for them. And
Yeah.
those people are out there. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you can usually spot that pretty early by just like the level of respect they bring to that call. Because like kind of piggybacking what I was saying before, I feel like I found better words around it. Like there's a big difference when you talk to somebody who, like Mike, like you said, you knew you had some limiting beliefs, but even you talking about that, like you were able to own that and be like, yeah, I've got some limiting beliefs around, ghostwriting and if it can actually work. And like, these are my skepticisms because you're coming at it with an energy of like, I know I have these limiting beliefs and I know they're stopping me. What do you think about them? And you're trying to work through them as opposed to bringing an energy of like, for example, I remember getting on a call once with this guy who just immediately had this, like, kinda condescending, pissed off energy, like, it's like he was coming into this call, and he immediately was talking to me about, like, "I've tried these other programs, nothing ever works," and he just had that energy of, like, the other things have been the problem, like, everything online is just misleading or whatever, and we were, like, 15 minutes into the call, and I was like, "Well, yeah, man, I can give you all the information about the program so you get what you came for, but, like, I'm not gonna try to sell you the program today. I'm not gonna move you forward into it because it sounds like you're pissed off at the world and you're not really done being pissed off yet, and I think you're gonna need to get over that if you ever want anything to work for you.
Wow.
So,
I,
here's how it works and everything. Here's all the information." And I actually closed that guy on that call. And and it wasn't like I wasn't thinking about it as like a I'm gonna manipulate him kind of thing. I was just like, yeah, you kind of sound like your own problem, man. And I'm not saying what you're saying is not valid. I'm sure you have tried other things that maybe weren't as successful as you expected them to be, but like you have to take ownership of your limiting beliefs as well. So I've also spoken to people before that say like, yeah, I've tried like three other online businesses and like they just never worked for me, and, like, maybe that's my fault, maybe I just wasn't that into them, and you see that self-honesty come out. I think that's where the line is in terms of, like, skepticism, because there's some skepticism that you can work with if that person is willing to be honest about the part that they play in their problem.
yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Man, so much I could say about that. Yeah. The one who just, yeah, like, just blames like every other offer, every program, all that versus the one who's like, yeah, I've tried like 3 programs, nothing's ever worked, like, I don't know if I'm just not putting enough effort in, enough time in, maybe it's a mindset thing, like, that's a very different person, right? One is, like, self-aware, it just hasn't worked out yet, that person probably will eventually have success because they're actually realizing the most important thing is that, like, nobody's gonna do it for you, you're gonna have to do it yourself, and, like, so for me, like now I'm remembering also why like I was apprehensive too, like switching into ghostwriting is because I'd already had something that worked. Like restaurant marketing worked for me, and I knew I was going to be like potentially leaving that industry behind. So it's like I just really wanted it to work out, right? Yeah. So anyway, um, but
That
sounds like you are a person who really actually like it sounds like and it's like the best sales technique is actually just like actually genuinely caring and like even your response to him like that just seems like you actually genuinely kind of also cared about the guy but like you also spotted that it's not gonna work out for you man if you have this attitude so right and it ended up closing and maybe he did have success later I don't know.
He did. I
Okay.
remember he was posting, like, 2 months later that he'd closed, like, a couple realtor clients or something, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, man, I told you."
Nice.
something to be said too about like the psychology of not wanting it and being like, okay, like I want to go over here. And for some reason, when you tell people that, they're like, no, I want to be a part of this. Like it flips their switch in their head. And it seems like it happened with that guy, like where you're like, you pushed him away and it kind of drew him closer for some reason.
Yeah, I think it probably just made him feel like he wasn't being sold, but, I think if like, in my very, very new days, I probably would have tried to, like, been like, "No, no, this is why it's great," and, like, you go into, like, a bit of a justification mode, but I think it shows a lot of conviction when you're willing to say like, oh yeah, it's you're trying to lowball me and ask for a huge discount. It's all good, man. I don't need your business. Like this is what it is. This is how much work I put into it. This is what I value it at, and I have really great clients that are happy to pay that. So if that doesn't work for you, that's cool. Like I think that that energy is more appealing to people than like the desperate like no, I'm really trying to close this sale energy. Because it's also like I think when it comes to like client and service provider, it's a relationship and there's a power dynamic there. And I think the best kind of clients to work with are the clients that like respect you as a service provider. They don't see you as their employee that they get to like dictate. So if somebody has that energy of like, I'm trying to get a discount, I'm devaluing your service, like there's a lack of respect there that you're probably going to feel throughout the relationship of working with that client. So I think it like one of the biggest shifts that people go through in business that is like a really big level up is the very first time you say no to somebody because you just don't want their energy. You're like, I'm actually choosing my mental health over money right now, and it feels powerful.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I will say one thing. It's not the opposite of what you're saying, but it's I think that I don't really see people talk about this very much, is that when you are starting in a service and like let's say that you actually are desperate, like you need money like ASAP just to meet your rent and all this, like I see people always do that post where it's like $500 client. I really need this to work, blah, 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 da, 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 da. You know, if it doesn't, my business is going to fail, but that whole one. And then it's like $5,000 client. It's like, just pay the invoice, take your time or whatever. It's like, which, there's a bit of truth to that. It's also not 100% accurate. Like I have had like a $4,000 client where it did become a little bit of a high maintenance situation because he had like one of his underlings like reviewing the content for him, and his underling was a pain in the ass. And he might have just been doing that like in spite of us or something like this. So it's not always just because the client's paying you like a fat retainer or something that's just going to be like a walk in the park, right? But what I wanted to say is that when you're first starting on a service, let's say that you actually like are desperate and stuff like this, honestly, take on a client for a little bit less money than you'd like ideally like to make in a year or two from now. Take on that difficult client, because you gotta learn the ropes, and like kind of like Gary Vee says, you have to like eat shit in the beginning too sometimes to first of all just to get into the game, right? And then also have an appreciation for what really does not work and what you don't like. But in the beginning, I think that you can't be too picky, right? Like, offer that discount, whatever it might be, just to get into the game. And then things are going to get better from there. But, if you're just trying to like pay your rent next month, then just stack clients and worry about it all like later.
Actually, like, I mean, I need the holidays fucked me up, and I'm making my own excuses now for why I haven't been doing it. Is do some like randomly, but they were like not like focused at all. It was like, all right, I see a guy that like looks like good, and I'm gonna just shoot him a message or whatever. Did that a few times during like the holidays, but I want to get back to the point where like I'm like sitting down at my desk for like an hour. Damn it. I saw this really cool clock. It was like a productivity clock, and it had like you could put like 60 minutes here. You could whatever every time you flip it, it would change like 45 minutes or whatever. And I just wanted to get that thing and just throw on 6 minutes every time, throw on some headphones and just like kind of go. I realized that like my business is going to be hurt. The content's fun, right? Doing content and all that stuff. You need to do it, and we all need to do it. We need to show up on these lives. We need to like do as much content as possible. But there's no shortage of doing direct outreach. So that I think that's the fastest way to grow the combination with everything else that we're doing. Because everything else that we're doing is warming people up, getting people to know us, getting people to like me and Mike talked about this on another call, but like parasocial relationships where people know you more than they actually do because they've watched 30 hours of your content. So they don't have these questions in their mind because you already answered them. they already so at that point it's just like, all right, like that guy that I reached out to was like he was already warm and he's like, boom. All right, let's but I think that for me it's more about like just not I need to put in the work. And I was just curious, like I actively at it well, or is it something ebb and flow like myself where it's like sometimes you're on it?
I think I first I want to agree with what you said, Mike, that I think in the beginning when you are really new and you're like, "Oh, I just want to get some clients," or like, "I have no money coming in right now and I need to make rent this month." Like I literally was in that position where I didn't have income for months and we were just draining my savings every month to get by, and it got to the point that we were like, "We have to do whatever the fuck we need to do to make some money this month because looking at my bank account is like getting scary." This was like years ago. And I honestly think the best way to do that is just do free work. Like that's the absolute best way. Like when I was trying to get marketing agency clients, I was just like completely straight with people. And I just started by like reaching out to businesses like in my surrounding area, and I was just like, "Hey, my name's Kelsey. I'm from the area. I help local businesses get customers. Your business is one that I actually have like a proven marketing strategy for. This is what I could do for you. This is about how many customers we could expect to get you from it. I can offer a free trial to prove it up front because I'm just looking to get some clients and get my name out there and like maybe get a testimonial."
Yeah.
And nothing ever landed me clients faster than that message because it was just completely transparent. I was like, "I'm willing to prove it. I'll do it for free." And I went from
Damn.
earning
For
zero
local
dollars a
businesses too. Like that's yeah, I could see that working very well. That's good.
yeah. I that like I people always ask me like, what are tricks to prospecting or whatever. I'm like, don't have tricks. Like offer something that's good, offer something that you stand by, that you feel like you can be transparent about, and then just do it for people. Like if your offer is actually good and you're brand new, again, like you don't have the conviction or the experience to kind of be picky with your clients. I think that's the fastest way to get clients is just fucking do the work for them and then be like, "Do you want me to keep doing it?" Mike, you
Wait,
look like you want to say something.
yeah, I do. I do. That's good you picked up on that. Yeah, do you actually know people who refer to it as tricks? Like, do you have any tricks for getting clients? Because
People ask for
even
hacks.
that
Yeah.
as a mindset thing, like thinking of it as a trick might be is probably one of your problems. Thinking that you have to trick somebody into working with you is definitely kind of like not the approach. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to say that actually.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
agree.
What were you offering as a service actually to those local businesses?
It depended on the industry. Like that's what that coaching program that I was referring to earlier, that's what they teach people how to do is like build like a side hustle by learning like kind of basic digital marketing to help local
Gotcha.
businesses. So it's things like lead generation, like Google ads, Facebook ads, reputation management, email marketing to get like old customers coming back in, just like very basic digital marketing things that most small business owners don't do for themselves and don't want to hire, a huge marketing agency to do for them. Um,
Yep.
Going back to your question, Jer, about like kind of continuing to prospect, I actually think the some of the best kind of content to make is like objection handling content. So like I do a lot of that for my clients. I'm like, what are like really common objections that you get when you're talking to people? Like what are questions they often have? What do you think are like the most common questions people ask when they come to a call with you? And like can we turn those responses into content? Because if you kind of cycle through objection handling content, you almost are handling a little bit of prospecting in your content. So, provided that people are seeing it, but you're also more likely to get people then showing up to the call, not really needing to be sold, because if they've consumed a lot of your content, sometimes they already are sold. And like, I've had those people too that are like, "Yeah, I'm going to be your easiest sell ever. I'm ready to go." It's like, fuck yeah.
That's how we knew our right though, right? When we showed up enough that people are bought into us. Like you're about to say something?
I was thinking well, I was thinking first of all, that type of content most definitely works. I actually did a post like that kind of like not too long ago. It was a story post that answered an objection. And what I did is I actually took like a sales call that I had done like about a year and a half back, where this prospect, and this is like the first time I'd ever really heard anything like this, but this prospect said like, I've heard about this like $19 AI tool, and it wasn't ChatGPT. It was something else where it's like you just like you fill out like one form and you like put in your website and like you put in your LinkedIn about section or something, and then it's supposed to just like then write you an entire month's worth of content. And so I wrote about that, and I wrote about how at the time I had a very basic answer for the guy because it's like it kind of like stumped me a little bit because I was like in my mind, I'm thinking, what are you actually asking me? Why you should use my service versus a $19 tool? I'm like, wow, man, I didn't think like you were exactly there in terms of like where you, because this was a guy who it was the weirdest thing. This guy followed up with me 8 months later after our first sales call. And then this second sales call we did, he asked me this question about like the difference between working with me and this $19 tool that he was curious about. And the craziest thing is this guy wasn't even an asshole. He was actually a pretty nice guy. He just wasn't like fully educated on, I guess, like why you'd really go with a ghostwriter or whatever, right? But I had a very basic answer for him at the time. I asked him like one more question. I'm so like, so what does the tool really do? Like, how does it write the content for you? And he told me about the website, all this, da da da, da, filling out the form. I'm like, well, it's like a tool like that can never really match your voice, and it can never really write like you and all this. But then in this story, I ended up going into like the deeper reasons. I also talked about even like reputation in this, and if you just sound like cookie cutter and if you sound like AI, you can lose the sort of like trust and reputation even with people like, investors, your employees, your prospects, all of this. So I just had a much deeper explanation. And I also had this one line where I was like, remember that like, you know, the A in AI stands for artificial or whatever, right? Like, and it's true. Like you're relying on this machine to write authentic content for you, and without things like the interview call and an actual human brain deciding what works and what doesn't, like, yeah, you can actually be putting out content that has a negative effect on your brand. So
Yeah,
Mm,
that's a go ahead.
Am I?
I was gonna say that's a really good point that like not everybody says those things or asks those questions out of disrespect. Sometimes it is just like pure ignorance. Like I have a client who like runs that program, super busy guy, like runs an 8-figure company, and he genuinely is just so far removed from content that like he's gotten me to help him hire a video editor, and he thought that like a 1 day turnaround was reasonable to ask of the editor to like have videos back. I'm like that's completely unreasonable, man, and I'm not going to ask somebody of that. Like we need to, if you want an editor that's like good and is going to do good quality work, they need a longer turnaround time than 1 day. And it's not like he was like, well, how hard can it be kind of energy. He just genuinely didn't realize how unreasonable the ask was. So sometimes it is just that people are so far removed. And I feel like this used to be something that I ran into on sales calls, is like almost like getting offended by certain types of questions, or being like, wow, that's a fucking, I didn't expect you to ask that question. I'm almost like insulted. But you almost have to take the stance of like, how can I take like a childlike approach to this and just assume that this person genuinely does not know? Because I found that actually helps me do like close more deals, is like really breaking it down for people at a childish level to be like, okay, so here's why this makes sense. And then when they get it and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that person doesn't buy, but maybe they're a little bit closer now to understanding the value of content.
Mike, going back to your thing with the AI, sounded really interesting. Like the guy seems like the potential thing. Is it, or is that something that not going after that other guy?
Sorry, you kind of cut a little bit there. Could you repeat that?
Oh yeah. So the guy that came back to you after months or whatever, do you see that? It sounded like the question that he asked with the $19 thing.
Yeah.
Sounded like it was just like not like ill intent or anything. Is that someone that you're trying to go after? Or
Hmm. Well, yeah, no, that particular guy, I had the second call with him. I probably did follow up like maybe once or so after the call. I actually should wrap back around. I should actually reach out to him now just to see, like, out of curiosity, where he's at in this. I don't think he went on to create content. From because it's just I've never seen him posting on LinkedIn, and I feel like if he was posting on LinkedIn, I probably would have seen something from him by this point. But yeah, it was a genuine question. It was not coming from a place of ill intent. And it comes back to like where we started this call too. It's like the same thing with Kelsey in that coaching program is like being able to tell who's just using that objection, that even a false objection as posturing versus a guy who and like Kelsey was just saying, it being able to then explain it like almost like from like a grade 5 level, or like almost like you'd say it to a child or whatever, is really important in that situation. And with this guy, I realized like, no, he actually is asking that because he's just completely unaware. Like, his business that he did was something like fractional. It was like a fractional CFO service, right? So he doesn't know about creating content. And like us three and a lot of people on this call, we're all in like an echo chamber of content marketing and writing and all this. And we might think that everybody knows this stuff, but man, like I've had people hop on a sales call with me who didn't even know that social media ghostwriting was a thing until they saw one of my posts. So
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I've had people like that too. That like I've had friends that like I went to high school with that have asked me like, Kelsey, what do you do? Because I never know how to explain it to people. And I explain to them like the art behind content creation and like what ghostwriting is, and like all their favorite brands that they follow have ghostwriters, and like once you explain it to people, they're like, oh yeah, yeah, I guess like, like obviously huge businesses probably have an in-house copywriter type person, but a lot of businesses just outsource that stuff to a copywriter or to a ghostwriter. And like somebody with good writing skills have to fill those roles. So usually once you explain it to people like that and they're like, "Oh yeah, I get it." And then if they could see behind the curtain of how much work actually goes into creating content, I think that's a really big distinguisher that I feel like I say often when it comes to like, because similar to what you said, Mike, some people will say, like, well, I could hire a social media manager on Fiverr for like $300 a month. So like, what's the difference? And I think you made a good point that, similar to AI content, like it is artificial content. So it comes down to, well, are you just trying to post for the sake of posting, or are you trying to post good quality content that actually represents your voice and your brand and speaks to the people that you're trying to reach? Because that's not something that you're going to get somebody to do for $300 a month on Fiverr and then also, be posting and tracking analytics and all that stuff. So I think it comes back to what we were saying before of like, what do you ultimately want out of content, right?
yeah. Yeah, because yeah, like yeah, and when you think of it, they can actually have like a net negative effect where, especially now that people can like uh kind of they kind of know when they're seeing something that's AI written, which I also kind of hate too, because on LinkedIn, one of the most common posts I seem to be seeing now is, and it's funny because I feel like a year and a half, 2 years ago when I first got on, I feel like I was one of the first people to talk trash about AI on LinkedIn. I don't know if I started a trend or something, but but I wasn't seeing posts where people were talking trash about AI until I started doing it. And now like I see so many people talking trash about AI on LinkedIn, about like oh, like the different ways to spot it and all this, and just like talking trash about AI and making fun of AI is one of the hottest topics on that platform now. Um, but one thing I do hate about not even just AI, but also kind of what AI has done and what people have allowed it to do is people have allowed it to steal certain language from us where it's like you can't use that anymore because that's AI. Like you can't use an M dash anymore because that's AI. You can't say, but here's the kicker. Okay, maybe you never want to say that to begin with, right? Oh, but here's the thing. Okay, so I actually say, but here's the thing in conversation, right? So am I going to use that in my writing? Yeah, there's a time and place, right? So yeah, so I kind of hate that about what AI has done and what people have allowed it to do. Because then this even becomes a thing with like clients potentially too, who think that they know how to like pick up on like AI phrasing and this. It's like, oh, you like it was this written with AI or whatever because it got one of these phrases in it, and then like something now needs to be like rewritten because of that. And that's not a super common problem, but I have had it did have it happen with like one client um once.
Like Nicola and you look at Dakota and all of them, they all got ahead of the AI thing and said, "Look, we're using AI." And then you have other people that are like probably more like writers for a living on Substack saying like trashing AI and saying all this stuff about like not using it. At the end of the day, like I always go back to like if software development, right? Like if Ahad developed something through vibe coding, do I give a fuck that he did it through vibe coding? No, I care whether or not the product works. I don't give a shit how it's done. And the same thing like with the messaging, right? I don't want people to like quickly see these phrases and identify it because we're pattern recognition machines. I'd want the ghostwriter to be like savvy enough to be like, all right, like I'm going to use AI, but rip apart the things that make it artificial, some certain degree, if they stand out. So I'm just like, I think that like, I don't know. I feel like it puts us in a bad position, like when people start trashing AI to the point of like not using it and like becoming this whole purist thing, like, oh, I have to sit there in a fucking cabin in the woods, literally write through pain or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I don't really buy into that bullshit either. Like, so I think that it's just kind of like framed and then like not being scared of saying, yeah, and I should use it because it's more efficient, faster. Obviously, I think that there still needs to be like a human, like reading the final drafts, like looking over things. And, but I mean, I look at it as like a partner, like a Reddit or like someone that like to like rip apart my ideas where I stuck, logic gap, things like that. But yeah, it's really interesting how there's a little bit of shaming going on for people use, and I guarantee you the people that are shaming are also using ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will never let AI take M dashes from me. I have always used M dashes in my writing. I think like rhythmically it helps if you want to like break up two thoughts in the same sentence, like coming at it from like a very like editorial grammar point of view. M dashes are just like can be a part of somebody's natural good writing, and when people say like AI has ruined M dashes, I'm like, well, that's a closed mindset. Like I disagree. Um, but I also think, yeah, there's definitely like the purists out there that are like super anti using AI in your writing. And I think it's kind of like you said, Jeremy, it's you have to see it as like a tool because if you're a writer, like if you pride yourself on your ability to write content or write in somebody's voice or write in your own voice, then yeah, you probably don't want to just completely outsource your voice to AI because the people that you can just like smell the AI in their content, that is usually what they've done. They've just let AI do the writing. It doesn't actually have any hint of their personality in it, and it sounds like all the other generic AI content out there. I think that's the wrong way to use AI, but I think AI is incredibly helpful as a writer. So if you're somebody that's like, I reject AI altogether, I just think it's kind of stupid and you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot because AI can be such a helpful tool for like ideation or like I probably say to my AI 10 times a week, like, how can I say this sentence but better or more concisely? Because sometimes you just need to like brain dump out like this is what I'm trying to say. Now how do I structure it to make the point I'm trying to make? And it's the same as like if I was bouncing it off of another writer. I'd be like, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to say. Can you help me like rewrite it?" I just use AI to do that. So I think there is a if somebody was to just use that $19 tool that you were talking about, Mike, they probably are going to get very generic content that nobody really reads because nobody sees themselves in it because it was not written by a real person with a point of view. But I think if somebody is that kind of purist of like, I refuse to use I think you're just making your job as a writer a little bit harder on yourself.
Yeah, I think the way there's a sweet spot with using AI now where if you if you kind of like battle back or like go back and forth with the AI, like actually like challenge it on stuff, use it kind of like as a consultant, maybe, right? Um, and even like pick apart things that you don't like. Even like if you given say you given it an idea, right, and then it gives you something back, you if you're if you're using AI now, like you have to watch that you're still a never lose your ability to like decipher what is good and bad. Always be a critical thinker, right? Always have that like really harsh editor's cap on, like where you're able to like really critique stuff, right? And look at it from a very clear lens. If you're able to do that, then I think it's a superpower. There are people talking about how it also like can atrophy your brain and stuff like this. Like I know a couple I know a couple guys on like LinkedIn where they claim to be like the like I would never use AI, which I actually think from a ghostwriting perspective is pretty smart positioning. By the way, like I kind of do agree that it is like smart positioning because you're going to attract a certain type of person where it's like I don't want anybody like even touching AI to write my stuff. And as a ghostwriter, like that could be good. Also, Jeremy, you talked about how like for example like Dakota and Nicholas Cole have like instead of like running away from AI, they've like adopted it as part of their positioning, right? Like one of the biggest differences there though is they are selling like a coaching program to people who either are ghostwriters or want to be ghostwriters, right? So by positioning it as like you could be an AI ghostwriter, right? It's very different than being a ghostwriter and saying, I'll write your content with AI. Like, isn't that appealing? And then prospects like, no. And you're like, huh? What do you mean? Nicholas Cole said I can just write my write the content with AI. Nicholas Cole, you're a liar. like like there's such a difference in positioning, right? So it makes sense for Dakota and Nicholas Cole to talk about how you can use AI to speed up the process. You have to be very smart in your positioning as a ghostwriter and how you're talking about AI. And like what I was talking about there is like using it as a consultant, using it for idea generation, that kind of stuff. I feel like a lot of clients are cool with that, but there definitely is a line like where you get into the AI slop category, right? So
I also think it's also like how savvy the user is to know how to train the AI in such a way that like, all right, do not use, I don't know, like synergy, for example. Don't use that word, clear giveaway. The unsung that it uses because they're just super like aspirational and cheesy. So I think that also like I don't mind if like a grocer uses AI just as long as I know that they have style and that they at the end of the day they're a good editor and that they're using it only to like expand on ideas, not to limit themselves. Yeah. And then knowing that they're smart enough also to train the AI to talk in a certain voice. Maybe to even the point of like every AI model would be like every person that's the client would have their own specific setup in quad, for example, maybe that you're not using word for word, but it's like, all right, person doesn't like these types of words and types of sentences. M dashes or whatever, and everything's kind of specific to that client. And then you feed it a couple writing samples of what they like, and then allowing, the AI really good at something that's pattern recognition, something like analyzing data, stuff that we're not as good at. It's going to be a lot better in us than doing that. So we're taking advantage of the computer's kind of sophistication, our own style. Because at the end of the day, you can't even like if you look at Dakota, like a lot of his like videos lately, they're fucking hilarious. Like of like gifts and shit of like him and his girlfriend with like a whip, no shirt on, and they're fucking hilarious. It's showing his personality and having fun, right? And I think that that's also sad. So many people are like scared to say something or like hiding behind text only or like not, or to the point where they're polishing the shit out of their text, sit down and polish a piece of text for an hour and it's perfect. Or we could show up on a live and basically flush through everything and see how we actually think. So I think that the combination of all these elements working with each other, in my opinion, like, there's another one too that the video allows you to kind of show more of your personality, more of that fun and authentic. But I guess also it really boils down to your hour long call with the person every month because the content would be super generic unless those stories were coming specific to that person. And those stories aren't going to change, right? They're going to be specific to that person, how you package the story. And I think the packaging, maybe the AI helps package that and helps us find ideas. I'm assuming that's how you'd be.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of made me think of something that I've been kind of wrestling with around content recently is that I do think that even with AI tools, like there is a real art to ghostwriting in that when you're creating content for somebody else, and even if you do what we all do, where you interview somebody and you're really kind of trying to like pull those ideas out of them, there's still an art to knowing how to take what somebody said and craft it into posts and stories that can stand alone. And I was talking to Mike about this yesterday that like I one of the things I'm trying to do right now is find somebody who can cut clips from long form. So
Mm.
somebody who can watch a long form video and pull moments that can stand alone as short posts. And it is so much harder to find than I thought. And I'm almost thinking now that I need to stop looking so much in the video editor category and maybe shift to looking at like people with a ghostwriting background. Sorry, the sun's coming in. I'm getting blinded. Um, because I think it is like there's an art to knowing how to select those moments and put together a good story. And it's harder than people think. And I think if you come at it with a ghostwriting kind of background where you're like, yeah, I this is what I do all the time is I take what people say about themselves and their business and I turn that into little stories that can stand alone. There's a real art to it, and especially if you want it to actually sound like that person and represent their voice and their beliefs. It's not something that you can just get AI to do for $19 a month. So I have like a whole new level of appreciation for it, and even going through it myself, like Jeremy, you do the same thing where you interview somebody, you have a long form video, and then you're cutting clips from it. You you have to be very selective with like, okay, what moments could actually stand alone as a post, where like it either tells its own story or it has a point that gets made.
Yeah.
Because this is something I've tried to use AI for. Like I will take a long form video and I'll throw it into Riverside or Opus and I let the AI do it. And sometimes it does cut some good clips where I'm like, oh, I can actually use that. But there's a lot of clips that you watch it and you're like, yeah, there's no point to that post. There's no story. There's no like central argument they were making. It's just this person talking. So I think it takes a lot of reps to get to a point that you're like, I can decipher that.
Yeah. My own process for that is I'll watch like if it's like an hour long podcast, I'll watch the whole entire thing and just see like what to have them stack rank the clips to see like what they choose. And then kind of like all right, like one makes the most sense to me, match what I already thought about myself. And then from there, a lot of the times too, it's like, hey, there could be a time where so much good shit was said and there's more that I wanted to add, but then it's taking away from like the central argument of what I'm actually saying. So a lot of it's just like finessing, like, all right, like, and it's also training clients. Like this thing doesn't need to be like 2 minutes long. It could be like 10 seconds, it could be 15 seconds. It could be like, this is the point we're trying to make. and that's it. And I think a lot of that just comes back to like remembering how to like, remove stuff more, I would say, than adding stuff to some sort of degree.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're looking for as the end product. Like that is the mark of an expert content creator and I don't know, content expert is yeah, like knowing what you want as an end product and like that ability to pick out like what's the hook, what are the real gems in this content is also the mark of an expert. And it's being able to listen to it and every time it's like ear candy or something like that person says a specific thing, that one line in the story and you're like, oh damn, that's the hook right there, right? and and this is the difference between the $300 vendor on Fiverr versus like the expert in their field, right? And it's the difference between putting out content just for the sake of putting out content versus putting out content that actually like moves people and is impactful and actually like hooks people and that, right? So yeah, there's a massive difference. And nothing taught me this more than being an editor within my own business and getting writing submissions from people who are actually like good ghostwriters. But even still with that, looking at a piece of content and being like, this is still not up to my standard from people who are like respected ghostwriters and content creators. It was still like not up to my standard and still at a level where I'm like, if I submit this to the client at its current level, I'm going to have a lot of editing to do later on. So I'm going to go through this thing and cross every T, dot every I, and go through and make sure this thing is perfect before I submit it. That made me realize how much of a difference there really is and why you can sell ghostwriting for 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 versus 500, 1,000, that kind of thing.
I feel like we could do a whole other live on this if you guys want to go live again next Friday, because this is something, like I said, that I've been thinking about, is like being in that editor role and kind of knowing what you're looking for in terms of like clip cutters, editors, like what you really look for in determining like, is this a good story? Because I actually have to hop off now, but I feel like I want to talk about this because, like I said, it's something that I'm facing when looking at clip cutters. It's something that I'm trying to get clear on for myself because I'm looking for clip cutters. I'm like, well, I need to be able to tell people like what makes for a good post, what makes for a good hook, like what makes for a clip that can actually stand alone versus one that I'm like, there's no point in posting that. So I'd be curious to get both of your guys' opinions on like what you think you look for in like when other people submit work to you. But yeah, I have to hop off now, guys. So let me know if you want to do that next week. I'm down.
I think we just discovered what our next topic can be. So I think honestly, this was like kind of that's the perfect time to end it too. I'll hop off as well, but yeah, next Friday, I'm down.
Yeah, I'm down for next Friday. I'll set it up too. Yeah, and I think that's a good one because that's something that I think about all the time.
Nice.
Involved in video, so I'm down. Happy Friday, you guys. I know since we all work for ourselves Friday like every other day, but I'm gonna go snowboarding. So hope you guys have good rest of your day.
All right.
Sweet.
Bye, guys.
Enjoy. See you
All right.
guys.